Sir, would you please state and spell your name for the record?
It's Grant Dorfman, Grant. Dorfman is D-O-R-F as in Frank, M-A-N.
Okay, and I understand you're a judge, but just to keep the record clear, I'm going to call you Mr. Dorfman if that's all right.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Mr. Dorfman, could you please tell these senators how you're currently employed?
I'm the Deputy First Assistant at the Office of the Attorney General.
Okay. And I'm going to ask that you lean into that mic and speak loud and clear so that everybody in the courtroom can hear you. Now, before we talk about your role as the Deputy First Assistant, I want to talk to you a little bit about your background and who you are. Can you tell us where you're from?
Grew up in Dallas, Texas.
Okay. And where did you end up going to school?
Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay. And then, was that for undergraduate?
Sorry?
Undergraduate?
That was my undergraduate, yes.
Did you go on to do law school?
I did.
Okay. Can you tell us where you went?
Yale Law School.
And what did you do after you completed your time at Yale?
I accepted a clerkship with a federal judge in Houston, Texas, brought me back to Texas after 10 years on the East Coast. I also took 2 years out before law school, got a graduate degree there, not in England as well, and then had a 1-year clerkship opportunity in Houston. Thought I was going back to D.C. to join the Department of Justice for the second term of the George Herbert Walker Bush administration. That never materialized, so I ended up blessedly staying in Houston.
Okay, so after that didn't work out, what did you end up doing next?
I went to work for a commercial litigation boutique and continued in that line. Went to a second firm where I made partner in, I think, 1999.
Okay, which firm was that?
Ogden, Gibson, White & Brooks, and the first firm was Sussman Godfrey.
Okay, and while you were working as a partner, can you describe to us kind of what type of law you were practicing?
Commercial litigation, generally, that's a big area, but civil trial work and appeals, and a lot of energy work, a lot of employment cases, and just the things that Houston trial practice is made out of.
Understandable. What did you do after you spent your time working as a partner at the law firm?
Well, I had a desire for government service. I'd never really set it out to be a partner at a law firm and continue that for the last 30 or 40 years of my career. So I'd applied to the Department of Justice when the George W. Bush administration came around, went up to interview for 2 vacancies in deputy AGs in the civil division. I ended up withdrawing within 1 week of the interview because my daughter was on the autism spectrum disorder. She was then 4 or 5 years old. And it turns out, to my surprise, but after exhaustive research, the school she was in Houston did not have any counterpart, any comparable service in either the Washington or Baltimore metro area. So I had to withdraw from consideration for that. That lit a fire under me, reminding me that's kind of what drew me to the law in the first place. Okay. And so...
let me stop you real quick. So that's back to Houston, right?
I'm still in Houston.
Okay.
Never left. But then I put in for an application to Governor Perry's office for 2 district court vacancies in 2002.
Okay. And can you tell us what happened with that application?
It was successful.
Okay.
I was appointed to the 129th District Court in Harris County. It's a civil district court in May of 2002.
Okay. And can you tell us what happened after that term and farther on in your career?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last part.
After you served as a judge, a civil court judge in Houston, what did you do next in your career?
Oh, well, involuntarily, the voters decided in 2008 that they liked President Obama better than the rest of the ticket. I went in-house with Neighbors Drilling as an independent an oil and gas contractor, I should say, with worldwide operations based out of Houston with about 25,000 employees, and managed their civil, all their litigation.
Okay. And then at any point did you serve another term as a judge in Houston?
Got remarried in 2013, wanted to do something different, and reapplied to Governor Perry for a district court bench, and was appointed in November 2013 to the 334th District Court, also in Harris County, same kind of court I'd presided over before.
Okay. And so in total, about how long did you serve as a judge?
I think altogether 10 years,
okay,
not including visiting judge service afterwards.
Okay. And then at some point, you become Deputy First Assistant at the Attorney General's office. Can you talk to us about what took you from Houston to Austin for that job?
Not to dwell on bad news, but in 2016, I, along with most of my Republican colleagues on the bench in Harris County, lost. I went back in private practice for a couple years. My father passed in that time frame, and I stepped into a family business that needed more care than I could give it as a full-time litigator. So I juggled that with having left the law firm, being a mediator, an arbitrator, available to parties to resolve their disputes, and also a visiting judge when the administrative presiding judge in Houston appointed me to service in that capacity.
Okay. So what brings you to the Attorney General's office then? How do you go about applying for that job?
Well, it came sort of out of the blue. I had a call from my friend Austin Kinghorn, who I'd known for several years as a law clerk to one of the justices on the Supreme Court, before that on the Court of Appeals. And he asked if I knew anyone who might be interested in working for the Attorney General. And I said, yeah, me.
Okay. I want to talk to you about that. It's no surprise we're here because there have been a lot of allegations made against Attorney General Paxton. You're aware of this, I assume?
Sure.
So when you get that call from Austin Kinghorn, you're interested in the job. Were you aware of all these allegations at the time?
Yes.
Okay. And can you talk to us a little bit about how you became aware of what was going on?
News reports, as probably most others did.
Was that concerning for you?
Yes, it was.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the concerns that you had after reading the news reports?
Well, I knew the reason they were calling and looking for people was because they had openings, and that was the good news. The bad news was these were serious allegations, serious charges that concerned me. And when I did go up to interview in Austin, and for that reason, probably unlike any other interview I've had, I took special time to press, in this case, First Assistant Brent Webster, on these charges.
What were your main...
Normally the interviewee is the one trying to sell him or herself.
You had to cross your T's and dot your I's. Can you talk to us about what your main concerns were coming into the Office of Attorney General?
You might be less interested in this, but I had kids at the time in high school and in junior high, so commuting back and forth to work was a concern. Where to live in Austin, it's not cheap, was a concern as well. So those were, I think you're asking something else.
Well, that's a fair concern, but I am also interested, like legally speaking, you're walking into an office where the Attorney General himself there have been allegations made to the FBI.
Sure.
And so what about that was specifically concerning to you in that situation?
Well, as I said, I spoke with Brent Webster when I interviewed, and I was much more pointed and brusque than I would normally be when I'm trying to get the job. And I knew he was a prosecutor, and by all accounts, a good one. So I pulled no punches. I pressed him, asked what I thought were fairly pointed, direct questions as to, okay, this is the allegations I'm seeing in the paper. What's the answer to that?
Kind of like a cross-examination a little bit?
A little bit. And it had an evidentiary quality to it as well, because he very patiently, I thought, given the busy nature of the office and constraints he was under, took the time with me to walk me through the documents he'd assembled at that point.
Okay. Now, after leaving that conversation, can you talk to us about what your opinion was with regard to taking the job as Deputy First Assistant Attorney General?
Well, I satisfied myself that these charges were, in my opinion then, not well-founded. I knew as part of my job there were a number of interesting things going on in the office, but I also knew as part of that, like the Google ad tech lawsuit was coming. In addition to that, I'd be in charge of defending, I think it was then pending, the Whistleblower Act lawsuit involving these charges. So that was also a concern.
Right. So I assume you take the job because we're here right now.
I did.
All right. And I want to talk to you about, well, when exactly was it that you started as the Deputy First Assistant?
December 3, 2020.
Okay. So that's after everything kind of went down with regard to October and the reports to the FBI, right?
Yes.
You mentioned that you were a part of ultimately the whistleblower suit. Are you aware of reports that were drafted within the office?
Yes.
How many reports were there?
2.
Can you distinguish the two different reports that were drafted on behalf of the Office of Attorney General?
Yes, the first one started almost from the time I was there. The first I remember seeing a draft was sometime in January, I think early January, because I was still working from home right after the holiday. I remember that going through edits of 2021. And that was released by our office in August of 2021, publicly on our website.
Okay.
And that detailed the main whistleblower allegations and what our office, after forensically collecting documents, emails, exhaustively compiling everything, was able to put together to address these allegations.
And can you tell us who actually authored or published that report?
The Office of the Attorney General.
Okay. Now, is it safe to call that the internal report?
Yes.
Was there a secondary report that was drafted?
Yes, and if you have a copy, that would help me be clear and precise, but I believe it is on Louis Brisbois' letterhead or in the format of a memo to the Office of the Attorney General.
Objection, Your Honor. Testifying from a document not in evidence, testifying about a document not in evidence, and hearsay.
Thank you.
Sustained.
There's a report in existence, correct?
Same objection, Your Honor.
There are two reports.
He's not testifying with regard to what is stated in the document.
Overrule that. Go ahead.
Okay. There is an existence of a Louis Brisbois report, correct?
Yes.
All right, we'll get there. But before we do, I want to be very clear. You started in December of 2020, right?
Yes.
You've looked at both of these reports, the internal report and the Louis Brisbois report, right?
Objection leading, Your Honor.
Show only to lay a foundation, Judge.
I'm going to sustain. Just,
Yes, Judge.
ask the questions one at a time.
Certainly. Are you aware of...
It's hard for me not to rule, by the way.
Are you aware? It's in their allegation, so I'll talk about it. Are you aware of the two reports?
Yes.
Have you read the two reports?
Yes.
Now, were you present at the Office of Attorney General during any of the subject matter involved in those reports?
I want to answer no, and I think that's right, but I would have to look at the reports to absolutely confirm. But I think everything that was detailed in both reports predates December of 2020.
Sure. Well, let me be more specific. Are you aware that the Office of Attorney General was involved in an open records request involving Nepal?
Historically, I'm aware. I wasn't there at the time.
Are you aware that they were involved in litigation with the Mitty Foundation?
Yes, again, historically.
And are you aware that there was an informal guidance letter with regard to non-judicial foreclosures?
Yes.
Now, were you present at the office during any of those events?
No.
Were you present at the office during the hiring of Brandon Kamek?
No.
So is it safe to say that you don't have personal knowledge of any of those events that are authored in the reports?
Yes.
All right. Give me one sec, Judge. I intend to get an exhibit for the witness. Copy for the court. Thank you. Mr. Dorfman, would you take a second to look at a copy of my exhibit numbers cut off? Attorney General Exhibit 23, and let me know whether you recognize the document.
I have looked at it and I do recognize it.
What is this document?
This is what you're referring to as referred to as the Louis Brisbois report, the second report in time that our office released on these matters. Well, I say our office, this was outside counsel sending it to the office.
Okay. And is this a fair and accurate copy of the report issued by Louis Brisbois on behalf of the Office of Attorney General?
Near as I can tell.
At this time, Judge, I would offer Attorney General Exhibit 23.
Your Honor, there's so much hearsay in there, I don't know where to begin. The document itself is hearsay. Within this document are conversations between people that are out of court statements that are hearsay. It relies on documents that are out of court statements that are hearsay. It also relies on people talking to other people who talk to other people, which is 3 layers of hearsay. So my objection, Your Honor, is hearsay squared.
Sustained.
Judge, may I respond briefly? My understanding, and Mr. Arroyo, if you would pull up Article 7, please. My understanding is that the House Board of Managers allegation in this case is that Ken Paxton and the Office of Attorney General issued a report that basically alleged false and misleading facts. This is a legally operative document in this case.
Your Honor, may I respond?
And the House doesn't want it in evidence? I don't understand how they can argue it's a lie if it's not even in evidence before the jury.
Your Honor, I hope counsel is not trying to mislead this court, because this article of impeachment is based on the internal AG report. This report, the Lewis-Brisboe report, came out after the article of impeachment. And so I'm sure counsel would like to retract his statement and not mislead this court. Regardless, this is so much levels of hearsay, and this thing up on the screen doesn't get around that.
I don't wish to retract my statement at all. I don't think that the allegation is necessarily clear, and I'm going to continue to argue that this is a legally operative fact.
I would suggest as an officer of the court that he retract it, because this report has nothing to do with this article.
Come forward, gentlemen.
Thank you, Your Honor.
For the record, I had sustained that objection, and it stands. Go ahead.
May I proceed, Judge?
Pardon?
May I proceed?
You may proceed.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Our jurors left the building for a moment. I did not notice. Give a senator a minute, and they're gone. We will be taking a break shortly, members, okay? We've just been back 90 minutes, and we normally take a break between 90 minutes and a little bit more. I think we're still missing a few. That was a short meeting at the bench compared to other ones, so they were basing their exit on their experience here the last 2 weeks.
I could tell where it was going, so.
Good news is the cricket also left the chamber.
I just think we're more entertaining, Mr. Dorfman and I, so cricket's out of here.
I believe all are present and accounted for. You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Before we talk about the internal report, I want to talk to you about your time at the Office of Attorney General in December of 2020. Can you talk to us about what was going on as far as it relates to productivity in the office at that time?
It was a very busy time. I think I mentioned the Google ad tech lawsuit that had been years, as I understood it, in the making. We were about to release the complaint at long last in federal court. It was a huge and extraordinarily complex case. You're taking on Google, so I was told if I took the job, I would have frontline responsibility for, or at least overseeing that, and we intended to hire outside counsel. So that was a big part of that. At the time, of course, the election was still going on. There were still election challenges, and I know people were talking to the office about that. That ended up resulting in the Texas versus Pennsylvania lawsuit. So my first week on the job, I think my first day on the job, we went to lunch.
I'm going to slow you down. I'm going to break that up, Mr. Dorfman. So you're talking about the election. I assume it's the presidential election, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And can you talk about the effect that that had on the workload of the Office of Attorney General at the very beginning of 2021?
Well, I had nothing to gauge it by, but it was extraordinarily busy time.
And did it appear that the morale, that people were working hard at the Office of Attorney General?
Oh, absolutely.
And despite the allegations that were made against Attorney General Paxton, people were still working at the office?
Yes, in my first 2 weeks there, I don't think I made it home before 8 p.m., certainly.
Did you have any, sorry to cut you off, but did you have any concerns about the work pace and workflow at the office?
No, it was fun. I mean, if that had been for the next 2 years, I would have had concerns.
Okay. As far as burnout goes or things like that, were there any concerns about anything like that?
Specifically December 2020?
More into 2021.
Yes, as 2021 went on, obviously the Biden administration came into office. Day one, people may remember this, a raft of executive orders. We were the first, and I'm proud of this, we were the first State Attorney General's office to obtain a preliminary injunction against one of those executive orders. It was the day one immigration order that imposed a 100-day moratorium on deportations, even where congressional statute dictated that removal must take place of a deportable alien within 90 days. And so we challenged that in court, federal court here in Texas, and won. And of course, there were other executive orders that we were challenging and filing lawsuits against. I was a voice in the office from a beginning then, but throughout this time, and as we continue to do the work, that look, it's great to be in court. It's great for our lawyers to go into court at the daytime and spend the whole day and file briefs at night, but you can only do that pace for so long. So I wanted us to be careful, husband our resources, use them wisely, pick the right cases, prioritize appropriately.
Utilize your resources.
To maximize the good work we were doing,
Okay.
I thought.
Now, during that time in fall of 2020, winter of 2020, and into spring of 2021, are you guys working in the office or are you working at home at this point? Or is it a mix?
Where I was, everyone was in the office. Now, some of the attorneys in the divisions, the litigation divisions, did a combination.
Okay.
In a lot of the cases, the courts were shut down due to COVID still in many cases. So even though we had cases all over the state, you might have a hearing in San Antonio on this computer in your office, then you turn and have a Zoom hearing in Midland or El Paso 30 minutes later.
Understood. And
which helped, less travel.
Right. You said that you were Deputy First Assistant Attorney General. Are you aware of who your predecessor in that position was?
I believe it was Ryan Bankert.
Okay. Can you talk to us about your role at the time as the Deputy First Assistant Attorney General?
The core responsibility I had is to oversee the litigating divisions, both criminal and civil. As I'm not a criminal lawyer, never have been, never was a criminal judge for that matter, I rely very heavily on my criminal division deputy, it's Josh Reno, and to manage those responsibilities and report up to me and as needed. But the civil litigation divisions, I feel very comfortable overseeing them. In addition to that, I have overall responsibility at the executive level for policies, procedures. From time to time, I've also had direct report responsibility over human resources, as I do currently, and also over the communications team.
So a wide array of divisions.
Yes.
Now, are you familiar with whether at any point special litigation was under the oversight of your position, Deputy First Assistant Attorney General?
I don't think it has been since I've been there. I think it was at one time. Again, I don't know this personally.
And can you tell us now who oversees the Special Litigation Division?
Ralph Molina.
Okay. And then under Ralph Molina, or at any point in time, was it a Patrick Sweeten?
Yes.
Is he still working that position, moved to a different position?
He's currently our lead counsel in the Buies case in the Rio Grande River, but that's on loan from the governor's office.
Did you have the occasion of working at the Office of Attorney General while he was in charge of special litigation?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, until I think earlier this year, he joined the governor's office. Up till that point, he was there the entire time I was there.
Okay. Did you feel like you had to help him with his job, or did he appear to be qualified in handling his business in that position?
Patrick?
Patrick.
Very talented lawyer,
Okay.
very experienced, very capable. If I had one criticism of him, it's that he's in court more and managing less. We wanted him to clone Patrick Sweetens, so we had a team of Patrick Sweetens. But Patrick's so good and so natural in the courtroom. I think he longed to be there.
Okay. Do you feel that Patrick is the kind of guy that takes pressure off you if you didn't have to watch the Special Litigation Division?
Certainly. They're the Special Litigation Division for a reason. I think that was a creation of Attorney General Abbott to have the tip of the spear. We have a lot of litigating divisions. We have our General Litigation Division, which are outstanding. All our divisions are very good, do different things. And special litigation is you need to be at the courthouse in 30 minutes. We just found out the Obama administration's filed doing this. They've issued that executive order. No time, let's go.
Okay.
And so if I had to oversee that as well as everything else, you're right, it would put more pressure on me.
I want to fast forward and talk to you about the internal investigation report. You said you had no personal knowledge of the contents or the subject matter of that report, right?
Say that again, please.
You had no personal knowledge. You weren't personally there for the subject matter that is in the internal report authored by the Office of Attorney General.
I wasn't there at the time these events happened.
Were you present at the Office of Attorney General when the report was being drafted?
Yes.
Can you talk to us about who was responsible for that, and if you know what process went into drafting that report?
I think in the first instance, we relied on an office-wide forensic compilation of documents, emails, et cetera, that were relevant. Brent Webster took the lead in compiling that. And then we had a team, and again, as early as January, I was editing drafts with others, Josh Reno, later Murtaza Sudarwala, our deputy for legal policy, Austin Kinghorn, Enrique Varela. There were others, but I may have left them out.
Okay. And can you talk to us about what your role was with regard to the publishing of that report, or at least getting the report ready to be published?
Well, I don't think we published it until August of 2021, and that probably is a reflection, one, of just how busy the office was and how much other stuff there was to attend to. But I'm sure I had revised and edited and redlined at least 5 or 6 times the entire document front to back.
Okay. Now, understandably...
and others did as well.
Right. Understandably, you weren't present for these events that the document summarizes. Did you play a hand in trying to find documentation to support the positions taken in that report?
More oversaw that process.
Can you talk to us about your oversight of that process?
Yeah, I felt very strongly this had to be, it was going out as a report of the office. I believe the Attorney General had said, look, these allegations are baseless, and I will investigate and present the facts and let the voters decide. Words to that effect. I wasn't there. And so this was a fulfillment of that commitment. I took that as a charge to lay it out there. And I think it's fair to say that the document, my emphasis throughout this process of editing was, look, this needs to be the voice of the agency. It's not any one person. It's all of us, and it's objective. It's factual, both in tone and substance. If we make a conclusion or from the facts that we presented from the documents that isn't supported by the document, let's not make that conclusion. Let's take that out and let the people reading it make their own decisions.
And so really, you're just trying to make sure that they're not making allegations that they can't back up.
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
Would you agree that your job was to make sure that the claims were verified?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Sure. Was it your job to make sure that there was evidence or at least something to corroborate statements that were made?
Was there an objection there?
Not to that, Your Honor.
I didn't think so. Okay.
I certainly viewed that as my job, yes.
All right. Now, you mentioned earlier that at some point you get involved into the lawsuit in this case, and I want to talk to you about the lawsuit, okay? Can you tell us your understanding of when the whistleblower lawsuit was first filed against the Office of Attorney General?
I think it was November of 2020.
Can you tell us who the named parties within that lawsuit are?
I'm going to struggle on their first names.
No problem.
Ryan Vassar.
Okay.
Mr. Maxwell's first name is
David Maxwell.
David Maxwell, thank
right.
you.
Mark Penley, ring a bell?
Mark Penley and Blake Brickman, sorry.
Okay. And more focused on who is the named party or the named defendant in that lawsuit?
There's just one defendant, the Office of the Attorney General.
Okay. Was Ken Paxton specifically named as the party to the lawsuit?
No.
All right. So it's the Office of Attorney General on the filing.
Yes.
And what is the first thing that you all do? Who all is working on the lawsuit with you at this time?
About the same time I was interviewing, I think they were interviewing for outside counsel, so I knew Louis Brisbois had been hired, and either the first or second week we might have had a phone conference or meeting with them. At that point, I think the lawsuit had been amended at least once. There was later a second amended, and so I was working on it. Austin Kinghorn was working on it. The first assistant would have been involved.
How about Chris Hilton? Was he working on it?
I think that's right. I think Chris Hilton was also from the start there. He certainly was later.
Sure.
Enrique Varela as well, who worked with Austin Kinghorn.